So we are setting up here. I was gonna have everything all set up, but my camera, or my phone holder, like that I can say hello to you here on, broke, so I had to run out and find a clamp from the tool box to clamp my phone up. So running just a few minutes behind, so you'll get to see the whole setup process here, which is most likely not engaging, but you know, we'll find out, I suppose. So good morning. It's a Friday. I don't have any background music on, so if you're here and you want me to throw on a little bit of mood ambience or something like that, just let me know and I'll take care of you. Otherwise, we'll just work in sort of semi-silence with me running my mouth. But, you know, if it were up to me, I would have this to where y'all could talk at me, because I'm a pretty good conversationalist in that respect. I guess working in a tattoo shop for so long kind of makes it easy for me to just run my mouth. Anyone who's been tattooed by me knows that to be the case. Anyone who's not, apologies ahead of time. You'll get them afterward as well, but they'll definitely be a lot of me talking. Alright, so I tried to put this out on Twitter, so we're going to try to do that again really quickly. So we'll see. Alright, let's try to do this with a link and then we'll get cracking. Appreciate everybody being patient with my setup. By everybody, I would assume there's maybe one of you. Maybe me. Maybe I'm the viewer. Not really sure how it works. Alright, so we've got our water. So I tend to use more traditional tools. This is going to be put up later too, so you know, I'll repost it. So anybody that arrives late will get this information later. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is kind of rough a little bit of pencils in, just to kind of get my hand going. I've got this Lobster Johnson Golden Age Sandman commission from my friend Fred, who is just an absolute excellent dude. I mean, obviously, speaking of him as a client, he's tops. Always gets cool shit. Dudes in jackets, dudes with hats, dudes with ties, all the stuff I like. I like most stuff when it comes to commissions, except for video game characters I don't love. However, Fred always knows kind of exactly what I can get cooking on, and that's noir-y, crimey, grimy dudes. So this is kind of a piece for Fred. I was happy with everything that was going on here with Lobster Johnson, so I'm going to kind of try to get this in the frame a little better. So Lobster Johnson, so here's the thing that I don't ever hear comic book artists talk about very often. I don't know if it's because they're afraid of being perceived as a certain way in this current, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, in the world, right? Like, there's a lot of assumptions about certain things. But I personally like drawing characters with, like, accurate firearms and understanding how guns work. You can see I have a couple of prop guns on the wall there. Those are for reference points. The little silver one there is what's called a 1911, and that is what I would operate under the assumption that Lobster Johnson uses, due to like the fact that he's kind of this mid-century and early 20th century guy. 1911 is a gun that was around back then, so I like to kind of look at what guns were around during what era and try to get those moderately accurate. You know, like, I tend to play with them a little bit, but I don't like, you know, I love what Rob Liefeld does with guns. He makes them crazy and fun and exciting. I tend to favor slightly toward realism, you know, like, I think it adds an air of authenticity to the piece. But I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but I do think there's a lot of comic book kind of like, well, people mess it up. You know what I mean? They don't know how stuff works or whatever, and that's okay. Like, but it does steal some of the authenticity out of the book. Like, so with Lobster Johnson here, I'm just trying to give him something moderately accurate. Same thing even here with Sandman's mask, but I did stretch it out a little bit because I still want him to feel like a super, I guess a super character, superhero, anti-hero. I don't know, Fred, what would you call him if you're in here? I'm sure you're not yet. You're probably working like a normal person. But yeah, I just try to keep things as close to convincing as possible, and then once we kind of like, if it ceases to be rad, then I start making it crazy and not realistic. Because I think at some point or another, we don't come to comics because they're realistic. We come to comics because they're not realistic. It's escapism. So in the end, like, if doing something fake is doper, then do the fake thing. That's way more exciting. But I think my hands are pretty warmed up. Is this too blurry? Is there a way, I wonder if I can get this down a little bit and make it a little clearer for us? Let me see here. Sorry if this is a nightmare. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know, dog. You can see my flannel there. Oh my word. Yeah, this clamp broke this morning, which was not what you want to happen right before a stream. Especially when you're not good at them anyway. Alright. I forget I have my face up in here. My Patreon little logo is kind of floating off the side there. Alright, let's get into the juice here. I kind of corrected it for y'all. Alright, let's go. Thanks, Matt. So yeah, I'm kind of working on getting this stuff to where I can do, you know, streams for whomever during, you know, whatever phase of the process, but where I can get into like working on pages for projects and stuff like that. You know, kind of make it more geared toward backers on Patreon. So if I'm going to be working on a page, I could live stream a page. You can kind of see what it's like to color or tone, or even letter, which I feel like might be kind of hard to stream just because I have to think a bit. If you're wondering why I have a brush in my mouth, it's just because I'm just kind of keeping the point here. So I'm using a number 6 synthetic round brush from Rosemary and Company. I was turned on to this was gifted to me by my friend Jay Lyston. Jay is absolutely aces inker, one of the best craftsmen and just overall dudes. Kind of hard to beat him. So if you don't know Jay Lyston, go look him up. But he hooked me up with this brush. He thought I would like it. Turns out he was absolutely correct. You know, it's not the type of thing I would use for every application. However, and I will say I'm pretty rough on it, so it breaks down a bit, a little faster than a sable would, but it has a really nice snap, if that means anything to any of you. If you don't, like, it's just kind of like the bounciness of it, you know, like a lot of sable brushes tend to be quite soft, and I like that a lot, but it's not great for me with certain techniques that I tend to do because I'm not as technically. I'm a much more expressive inker. I think everyone that is familiar with my inks can, you know, attest to that. But as you can see, I can kind of get like a nice variation of line shape, or sorry, like strokes and marks here. Playing with getting a couple shadows in here for this Hulk. I've been doing some of my commissions lately with a lot less, I guess, care on like how many details I'm gonna fit in or how noodly and sort of precise I can be, because I kind of feel like anybody can do that, like if they just dedicate enough time. And for me, like I think where my stuff tends to be a little stronger is when I'm a little less concerned about how noodly and detailed it is. Now, that doesn't mean I won't get in and noodle and put details in where appropriate, but it's not my focus right now. My focus is giving high energy, high power, exciting commissions, and so that's what I'm trying to turn out here. Today, this commission was commissioned for my trip to the UK, so anybody who's watches this later or now from the United Kingdom could be this could be for you, but also if you're over there next weekend, that would be November 11 and 12, I'll be tabling at Thought Bubble in Harrogate, England there, UK. I don't know how you actually call out towns and addresses, if you just say England, or if there's other, forgive my ignorance. Yeah, Matt, I'm trying to put that power in. Thanks for watching. You're making me feel like I'm not just talking to myself here. Appreciate it. So yeah, so now we got some rocks for Hulk here, and I'll get in and kind of do a little bit more. As with a lot of things, Matt knows from being a good friend for a long time. Matt's a collaborator of mine. We worked together on a book called Cherubim. Matt's a spectacular artist. You know, he and I work very differently, but have very similar, I think, influences and interests at times. We do a superhero comics, kind of a dark superhero book called Cherubim, and it is about a crime-fighting, well, I guess crime-fighting maybe is a bit of a understatement. A fella who has become part of an underground, long-forgotten religious sect tasked with pushing back the forces of evil at the edge of the apocalypse. And so you get a lot of like high action, sinister bad guys, dark vibes, very much like fans of, you know, Spawn, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, even a lot, like some Batman and Spider-Man energy in there at times. Matt and I are both huge fans of superheroes, so you get a lot of the stuff that we kind of enjoyed when we were younger, you know, some 90s grit, but it's not like pastiche, like we're not kind of making fun of it or anything. I think there's a lot of people out there that will go just put a bazillion pouches on somebody and kind of try to take the piss on 90s books, and I don't think we do that at all. I think we try to show some love to stuff from the late 80s, early 90s, because there's something neat about the energy on those books, and so that's what Matt and I did on Cherubim. So you can check that out. Find Matt online. He's the one who's typically posting them up, so it would be MTS Comics on Patreon and on all other social media platforms. I believe he's on TikTok, Instagram, and the whole 9 yards. MTS, as in Matt, I don't know what the middle would be, Sparks is his name. MTS Comics. So that's, I guess that's my non-sponsored sponsor for today, is my friend Matt. So alright, so here we are on this Hulk. I want him kind of coming down on here, so I'm going to have the details kind of slowly start to dissipate as we get down toward his feet there, because like, that's the, like, drawn feet's awesome, but they're just going to look kind of stiff and like overly important if I draw the little details on. Like, I want them to be kind of like slamming down, right? So the best way I can do that is to kind of have them turn into a blur or just kind of a mess of marks. Not a mess, like it's a calculated choice, but hopefully you know what I mean. My phone is just blowing up. I hope it's not an emergency. Let me double check it, make sure it's not. We're safe. All right. So if you're wondering what ink I'm using, holy smokes. I'm not used to this. If this is all like action from social media from me posting this stuff up, then I'll have to learn my lesson. So I'm just using regular Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay black. I don't know if that shows. Ooh. Yeah, kinda. This is not the Black Star, which I believe has a bunch of lacquer in it. I mean, I think this has lacquer in it too. But it tends to get cloggier for me, and it's just more expensive, like by twice the cost. Maybe it's just like reduced, like maybe it's just kind of like more concentrated. I'm not sure, but I do my commissions on watercolor paper. I don't do them on Bristol because I do a lot of gray tones, so I don't really feel like I need. This gets a nice flat, black, even sort of look to it, so it does the job for me in a way that I find most satisfying. Alright, so I think we're cooking here. This dude's looking pretty tough. I'm gonna get in here and, oh man, so I wish you could see. I want to do this face, but I don't want to like cover up the camera because it gets real hairy in here. This would be one of those instances where sometimes I would use a brush, or sorry, sometimes I would use a pen, but I want to get a couple of these marks first with a brush because I feel like that you just kind of can't emulate that. I could use a brush pen, but even that still, it gets close, but no cigar, you know what I mean? Alright, so I got some of those marks in there, which I'll finish out with a quill nib at the end. So yes, we're going to bust out the quill. If you're not cheering, then I don't know what your problem is. We love quills around here. Alright, so, you know, I'm gonna black out this knee. Yeah, look at that. Much better. Alright, so now we've got that. I've got this silhouette of this leg. Now we're in business. Alright, I want to bust out a slightly bigger brush. I got this big fat number 8. It's also a synthetic, like a fake sable or whatever, just for putting in some big chunky black spots. For those of you who don't know how to draw rocks, my pal online, I don't know how, you know, I don't know how good of friends anybody would say we were, but I really enjoy him, is Dan McDade. He was posting on Twitter just drawing rocks and stuff. Dan is an incredible cartoonist. I find that, you know, rocks can be quite nice to draw. Mike Mignola probably is my favorite rock guy, which is a hilarious thing to have a favorite rock guy. But he just kind of has this knack for finding these simple shapes. Alright, so we're getting there here with our black. So I'm sorry if it's kind of a mess for y'all. I guess I'm only as sorry as I can be. I think I've said it before, I gotta get good at this whole trying to promote this Patreon thing, but you know, I will be doing these free things, but eventually I will move them more toward Patreon, ideally, where we'll have more exclusive ones where you'll be able to see more than just some commissions, like you'll be able to see full process stuff. And I would like to get a thing going, if possible, where I can just set up for other tiers and stuff, just being able to have just full-on chats, you know, like calls where people can all be in at the same time, like a Zoom or something like that. But it's not quite the same as a live stream, you know what I mean? I think people do that with Discord servers or something, I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Anybody with any information that's watching this, that would be quite helpful. Alright, so our Hulk is getting there. I think we're pretty good on the spot blacks and Man, I'm not happy yet, though. I'm gonna blast a couple little spattery spots here for my... So I'm just hitting this brush with a pencil. Not a very scientific method to get the spots, but I do like the randomness that you can get. Alright. Alright, let's get in here and just do a tiny little bit of... This shadow situation here is not making me happy. So, it feels a little too abrupt. Doesn't address the form in a way that I would like. Alright, let's go. Thanks, Matt. That's my cheat to give it some energy, buddy. Make them think it's fast by making the ink go on there fast and wild, you know what I mean? Alright. Yeah, I like this better. Alright, we're going to clean up this shadow here. Once again, like, I still want to rely on like the chunkiness of the brush and not like get too in my head about any part of it. Alright, I think we're definitely in a better spot there. Okie dokie. Alright, so next step is gonna be get out the quill. I need like a soundboard, like a laugh track there, but for cheering. Also a thing I should find. Alright, so we're gonna use, I think I've got out the 102 today. Hunt's 102. Everybody's made famous by, I feel like, every comic book artist ever. Alright. Is everybody like, I've got like my wire here and my my little clamp that fixed my deal. Alright. Give me just a second. Let me make sure I don't have people unable to get into this thing. Oh man, every time it dings, it shakes the screen. Holy crap, I'm sorry, y'all. Yeah, I gotta learn some lessons here. You can tell I'm a real greenhorn on here. Holy shit, did I not post the link to this? Oh no, I did. Okay, cool. Alright, back to it. Alright, so now comes the hard part, which is choosing which details I want to have inside this thing. You know, obviously people like a good detailed face, myself included. But I don't want an over-detailed face where it loses its sort of excitement and energy. So we're gonna be very choosy about where everything goes. And I wish I could tell you there was like a good, sensible, thoughtful set of rules for figuring this out, but for me it's very intuitive. I do have an inclination to, on things that like could make like a really solid contour, like the edges of the teeth, you know, I tend to find a way to break them up. I don't like the way that, like, if I was just gonna do a solid, you know, like gum line slash tooth line, like I try to break it up like I did there, where it's just like not a perfect, not perfectly connected stuff. It's probably not clear enough. So let's all right, where a little hair in here. Gonna need to get back in with the brush here momentarily as well. So that's another thing you'll find about watching me work is I definitely like bounce back and forth between tools. So I was trained, I guess if that's the right term, my mentor in inking is still to this day in a lot of respects a man named Stefano Godiano. I always talk very highly of Stefano because he's one of the great men that I've known in my life. Stefano, one of the first things that I learned from him is how lawless he is. I was working on some inking, and I was just kind of looking at what he was doing, and always really floored by the energy of the line that he had. And I kind of asked him one time, I was like, so what, like everybody always asks, even inkers ask each other, they'll tell you, like, some people out there will be like, it doesn't matter what the tool is, it's what you do with it, etc., etc. Some people tell that to you, but we still are funky about our tools. But I asked Stefano, I was like, what are you using? And he was just like, I don't know, whatever's close. And that really kind of was like, holy shit, like, this dude legit just doesn't care, it's just whatever's going to give him the line that he wants. And once I kind of, once I realized that that's really, there's, obviously if you want a particular line that you can only get with a certain tool, then obviously go for it. But at that point I quit hemming and hawing about, like, what tools I was using, and, like, because I wasn't really trying to get a particular type of line. I was just trying to get an image that I was happy with, and the only way I could do that was through being kind of a little wild and a little intense with my mark making. So I kind of moved into that direction for a long time. I did end up getting a lot more precise as the years went on, and I'm actually starting to kind of like undo that now quite a bit. Getting back to some of that wild line, which I think is for the best for my brand of artwork, I guess. I know a lot of people out there love, like, crazy detailed cross hatching, and I've heard stories where art reps will tell the artists, like, just put a bunch of lines on it. People love lines, and I think that there's a lot of truth to that, but I do think, like, there's certain guys out there like Stephen Green, right? Like, Stephen Green is a guy who can really edit, or Nick Dragata. They can edit down their lines beautifully to get these abbreviated this is an abbreviated, I guess they just make the work more abbreviated, and I think it's stronger because of it. Dragata is definitely like one of those unsung magnificent artists out there. And that's not to take away from the guys that are super detailed. Like, there's obviously guys out there that they'll draw everything under the sun on the piece, and it's beautiful. But I kind of get that, I guess. There are guys like Dragata that I just don't get. It's masterful. Alright, so we're kind of getting to a point now where I'm just kind of putting a couple of lines on here to kind of like help develop a sense of form on this in like 3 dimensions. I want him to feel real thick and like, like he weighs 1,000 pounds or whatever. It's like always my goal. It's a John Romita Jr. sort of. I always felt like whenever I looked at Romita Jr. stuff, everybody felt like they were just weighed a bazillion pounds. So that's kind of my hope with my own work, is to make everybody real weighty and meaty, and I feel like people recognize that in my stuff, so we're gonna keep that going today. Man, I really like drawing the Hulk, I gotta tell you. Just a fun. I always tend to draw these big beefcake dudes pretty well. There's a commissioner that's gotten stuff from me on several occasions that's we've been kind of talking about the next one that he wants to get, and it's in this Spawn-related thing, and I think that, you know, we were down between two characters. If you know of these two, there was the Freak, who's this gangly, serial killy, like long-haired, rock and roll looking dude, which is a great fit for what I do. But then the other one is Cygor, this big gorilla, like cybernetic gorilla sort of dude. And I'm thinking that maybe the way I could fill out that page would be pretty neat. So I'm thinking I might, at least right now, at least this 10 minutes of my life, I'm swinging towards Cygor. We'll see where it goes in the next 10 minutes. Alright, so we're coming into, what is it, November 3. I gotta remember to wish my sister a happy birthday tomorrow. I hope I don't forget. I hope everybody had a great Halloween. If you're Catholic, I hope you're enjoying the, what do they call it, the octave of the faithfully departed. I don't know what the actual technical name is. Praying for the dead and such. Let's see here. So I think we're almost ready for gray tones on this thing. What do you think, y'all? I was thinking about putting some speed lines like he's dropping down here. I think that would make it look pretty classic comic books in a lot of ways. But then I'm also kind of like, well, I still want this to feel kind of modern. We'll see. It's something I can always add later. Can't take it away. I guess you can white it out. Who am I kidding? You can white it out. Alright. A few more little spots with the brush here, and then we'll I hope everyone's getting geared up for Thanksgiving, and I gotta tell you, the older I get, the more that is an A+ holiday. I mean, I've always enjoyed it, right? But it's not even the eating, it's like vibes and everything is nice. Alright, I'm gonna put one more good-sized rock back here because I feel like it's missing a little bit of juice. I think this will be a nice. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Gives a little extra dimensionality. Tight. Alright, so let me see if I can get this up a little bit from a distance. Holy cannoli. Guys, I'm trash. Lord have mercy. There we go. I did not expect to break that thing today. Alright. Yeah, let's get into these grays. I have a very unscientific method for producing grays. Sometimes I have a mix, which before I go to England I will probably make a mix. But it's usually one dropper of black, and then I've got my gray wash over here actually. Whoops, I could have just grabbed that. And then one dropper of water, and then another half dropper of water. Half-ish, you know, of course. Now let's see how this shakes out. I'm gonna get a different brush. I don't want to use this one and beat it up just for gray tones. I'm gonna get up this number 4, I think, if I've got one sitting here somewhere. I know I do. Got a brand new one. Dang. I'm gonna save that for the trip. Maybe I'm not. Okay, let's use this guy. And this guy. Alright, that'll do. And let's go. I tend to use I like these slightly softer brushes for doing gray tones. I could not explain to you why in a million years. My wash here is a little dark, so I'll just lighten it up a little bit. Maybe I should have went with 2-hole. Alright. Try again. So I tend to use these like lighter, or softer brushes rather. There's just something nice about the way they kind of like work the stuff in. Jeez, man. I'm not happy with this gray at all. Really blew it. I mean, I didn't, but it's annoying. Yeah, I just kind of like that I can kind of get in and mop around and not really feel particularly like yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's just a little softer, gives me a little more flexibility. Alright, I'm really not pleased here. Don't follow that formula. I don't know what the hell I was doing. It's just too dark. This is looking a lot better right out of the gate. Okay, so yeah, these softer, like I'm using a Raphael synthetic blend. Their Karel series or Karel series, Kaerell. They're kind of like their own answer to their own sable brushes. They are not even remotely as good as their sable brushes. Like the Raphael 8408s and 8404s are lovely, but these Karels or whatever are great for things that aren't doing like comic book lines, you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna get in there and do some gray tones or some watercolor painting or whatever. Really a nice brush. I really like them. They treat me nice, and I won't complain about that. There we go. You can kind of see these. I mean, you can see too with these tones, like they clearly, like as they start to dry, they lighten up quite a bit. So you get, get a little bit more dynamic range than it looks like when it goes in. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind. It's weird. Like tattooing is very similar. You know, when you open up the skin with some gray tones, it all goes in looking kind of dark, and then as it heals, it lightens up. So if you ever go in for a tattoo and you've never had one before and you've never had a black and gray tattoo, know that everything's going to look darker than it heals. It's just a thing I always have to tell clients on the front end, because I don't want them to think that I'm like kind of backpedaling, like, oh yeah, sure, I promise it'll lighten up. It's like I always tell them on the front, because I don't want them to think I'm full of shit. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. This real light tone here. Anybody, let's see here, I've got 3 in the chat right now. Say hi if you're in here, if you don't mind. So, as Matt, if you're still in here, making sure that I don't lay down too dark of a gray. Um, you don't really. I mean, the way you can do it if you're smart and you're not me, is to have just a scrap sheet of paper right next to you, and that is a very surefire way to know kind of what you're getting. I don't do that. I'm a lunatic. So that's what sensible people do. But I think we all know I don't have much good sense. So I just kind of play it like an idiot. But yeah, just keeping it. And I do that when I watercolor paint, like with colors. Like I'll keep a little board next to me just to be safe that I'm, I like, because the watercolor paints, like particularly like the liquid watercolor, like the dye-based design inks, they tend to be really deceptive in the bottle and even on the palette, if you're not careful. So I tend to be very cautious about what colors I'm getting there, because I have to be quite a bit more nuanced in those. Whereas with this, I just kind of start in a dark area, so that way if the gray is a little too dark, I'll know it right away and it doesn't affect my final piece in any real significant way. I feel like I'm talking like this stop-start sort of makes me think I'm like doing slam poetry or something, or I'm Kristen Stewart in Twilight or something. Alright, so now we're kind of starting to get it. Oh shoot, I'm like covering it up with my head. You gotta tell me this stuff. Yeah, you know me. I'm living on the edge. Matt, since you've been in here the whole time, dog, you're kind of in charge of making sure that I don't put my stupid brain in the middle of the image, blocking everybody's view like a real idiot. Alright. Big day today for me. I'm getting this commission done. This will have me all caught up on my commissions for the UK. And then, ideally, I'm going to be getting the design work done for a book I just finished. Very excited about that. I cannot talk about it, but the issue is wrapped, not the whole book. And I get to get in there and put all the pieces together and make a nice thing. There, he took the job. That's delegation, folks. Thank you, Matt. You're a good man. Alright, so now I can start getting a little choosier, a little more careful, because I want to put these tones on his face here without kind of getting into trouble with I don't want these values to kind of start to clog up like the details of his face. And I don't want to get overly detailed. I want to keep them simple enough. That way he reads immediately. Like you don't have to get in there and squint your eyes to figure out all the little details of it. So that's like why what I was saying earlier, like kind of editing yourself, and for me in particular is really hard, because I want to get in there and noodle around and get all those little details in there, but they just will fight the clarity of the piece. It was funny because just yesterday somebody had posted a letter from Steve Ditko, and Ditko had responded to something he had seen and commented on the art and how it was, like, in his opinion, overdrawn, and he had said something to the effect of, and I thought was a hilarious phrasing, was anti-clarity is anti-mind, which I thought was really funny. So I don't want to be anti-mind. I don't want Steve Ditko to get mad. I don't know the guy, so don't know what it would actually take to make him mad, but he did not seem to like the busy artwork. Alright. Alright, so we're coming together now. We're starting to get my dark values pretty much in here for the glut of the piece. Got a few more little dark spots I gotta hit. And once I get through the darks, then I'll get in with the light tones. Light tones just kind of go in a little easier oftentimes. Not always, but they kind of give you a nice little, like it's just kind of like you're just leaving out everything but the highlights essentially, or separating out sections or textures or objects. So if you're, you want to make sure your someone's sunglasses don't feel like their eyeballs or like they're part of their face, right? Like you want to make sure those are different enough. So like sometimes the gray tones will help. If you didn't establish it in the black and white, you can establish it in the grays. Which sometimes I do, and then I'll get in there with a little bit of white on the back end too. So you can see us kind of closing in. You can see the forms and shapes kind of start to come out here. I'm wondering if I should have had a little more light on here. I did not have my lamp at the ready, so maybe next time I'll try to bring a lamp up here. Alright, let's put in some big blocks of gray here now. Look at that. We're in business. My buddy Daniel will always say things like, "Watch him go, folks." He worked in on construction sites and stuff, and that was just kind of a fun way that they would mess with each other, and it's been integrated into my vernacular now. God bless him. He's given me some of the dumbest things to laugh at in terms of speech. It's like 90% of our sense of humor is just saying words wrong. I'm always a big fan of Daniel's perspective. Alright. So we are just about done with these dark. I know I've said that twice already, but I mean it this time. I am going to get a slightly more delicate brush for some parts, like when I get into this face, because I think, as you can imagine, like there's more ways for that to go sideways, because that's the part that the eye focuses on. So I tend to give eyes and hands the most attention for the most part, because they just tend to be the place where people can get mucked up and not know what's going on, or where stuff can look. That's like for me, like a quick way out on art is when someone feels like they're phoning it in with, I mean, nobody really phones it in with faces. But there's a lot of folks that just kind of like give the old like, ah, F it with hands, and that's not, to me, that's an exit sign for me a lot of times, because like that's not like, it's not a conscious exit sign. I'm not like, I don't see it and then go, I'm out of here, it's just kind of like my brain checks out, because it's such an important part of the acting. I think anyone who's really been reading comics for any duration of time can probably even recall some of the coolest hands they've ever seen drawn. Like it's just a thing that sticks in your brain. Anything that seems to be done with care that's of that level of importance tends to stick into your head. It could be something as simple as a fist. It could be like a hand kind of making like a claw, like a rah, But anyone who grew up in the 90s could probably remember, just off top, like that Spawn cover, the issue 1 where Spawn's kind of doing like the Spider-Man fingers or like the Doctor Strange fingers, and how kind of like that was the coolest stuff in the world. Alright, there it is. Let's get, oh wait, I missed one spot. Here we go. Guys, I'm about to start talking about spooky movies, because I watched several of them. Well, let's be honest, I watch several of them all the time. But I'm most excited to watch When Evil Lurks. But I gotta have a night to do it, and my schedule is not loving me right now. It may not even be till the end of the month that I get to see it, which is just not cool, but I'm not about to start complaining over something so stupid. sop this up here. And all right, let's get a little bit of this out of here. And we're going to put some more water in. And I think that we're going to be good. So we'll check this out. And I think we'll be into the light gray here. And maybe a little too light. Let's see. All right, we're in business. Check that out. That's like just right. You see, I don't do any like smart things like test it on. I just figure it out right on the thing. It's the same to me. It's like that. Like this is like the gray wash equivalent of like finishing the drawing in the inks. You know, where you don't take the pencils all the way, and you leave some room, like on the drawing to, like that's to me the gray wash equivalent here is finishing the drawing in the grays, I guess. Letting the gray do some of the talking for you. I'm a control freak in certain respects. I think everybody can be, you know, prone to that depending on the thing. But this is definitely not one of them. Alright. Thanks, Matt. I got my head out of there. We're doing this together. So Matt, who's been in here commenting up a storm, also happened, you know, like I had mentioned before, we work on a comic book together called Cherubim. He and I, he's local to me, so we tend to hang out and have a quite a fine rapport. I love Matt very much. He's a good friend. Over here making my stream not blocked by my big head. So, okay, that leg looks more than done here. Let's actually, I gotta do one more thing to it. The cool thing about having this up on the screen is you kind of get like a wide view, so you can kind of like see your values in a more zoomed out way, other than in being right in your face, which is kind of nice. Alright, so... Oh, the terrifying face on the shelf. That is just a mask I wore for Halloween. So I was doing this bit where... my kids always like when I dress up, because I tend to favor things that are not what they seem, you know? Or things that tend to hide other things. So I was doing this... I did this costume one year where I kind of painted myself like this goblin-y, sort of demon-y sort of figure, you know, where I like kind of like painted all of my skin, like I taped up my ears, I did this whole nine where I was like this goblin man, and then I put on like like dress clothes, excuse me, and that was my nice human face, and so I put that face on, so it was just kind of ran around the neighborhood like this sort of like person masquerading, or a thing masquerading as a person, which was a fun little bit. If you're not familiar, strip panel naked, if you're not familiar with kind of what I do besides superheroes, like I am a big horror guy, so I tend to talk about spooky movies, I write spooky stories and all that stuff, but I don't assume anybody knows anything about me, so you'll get a lot of that kind of talk, and Halloween's a big good time for in the Level household. A lot of Halloween traditions here. Also, y'all, it kind of goes without saying on YouTube, but I guess I still got to say it because I've got to get in the practice. You can subscribe to this channel, Phantasm Studio. There's going to be stuff going on. Oh, hey, Hassan. Shit. How's it going, man? Well, you know exactly what I do then. I do like that you referred to yourself as the letterer guy. Yeah, subscribing to Phantasm Studio, like, this is pretty much the vehicle with which I'll put out videos. Not all of them will be public. You know, a lot of them will be private through the Patreon, like unlisted or whatever. But you know, when I'm doing commissions and stuff and I want to kind of just share with everybody, this will be the spot to do it. Hassan, if I can find the image of me in that costume, I'll send it to you. But I have to ask my wife. She's the one who tends to keep better records of literally everything. Not that she keeps records of everything, she just does everything better than me, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I'm an absolute mess. But I can draw okay. Oh, my head's creeping in here. It was horrible. My neighbor really hated it. She was not happy. I mean, she thought it was cool, but it really scared the shit out of her. I mean, scared the crap out of her. I don't know how this shit works. Yeah, we had a great time because we would always walk around for trick-or-treat with the neighbors, and kind of a lot of the neighborhood all went out together, so it was kind of a lovely time to... I always felt a little bit bad for them because I'm like this grown man who's 40 years old, like dressing up in full Halloween costume and stuff, and you know, it always makes me feel like there's a significant arrested development in the way that I approach Halloween. But I found out this year that you know, they were kind of talking about being excited to see the costume that I would do because they always like my costumes, so it made me feel less insecure about it. I mean, I never feel insecure enough to not do it, but I was kind of like, man, does everybody think I'm too old to do this? But if I'm going to be walking down the street with my kids, I'm going to put on something spooky, you know what I mean? Now, I have heard, and I'm not, you know, in other countries, but I've heard that trick-or-treat is just not nearly as big of a deal outside of the U.S. So that was a bummer for me to hear. Alright. A little bit of dead air there from me. I'm going to get a drink of this coffee. So we've been streaming literally an hour, which is pretty good, but I feel like I'm so close to being done with this, I might as well finish, because it's probably going to be about another 10 minutes or so. So if you've got the tenacity to hang in to see this thing finished, stick around, because those last couple minutes are always real fun when I start blasting white paint and stuff on it. Kind of always gets a show going at the cons when you're the one dude who's just banging on a marker or whatever in the middle of the show floor. It's very performative, but I don't know how else to do it. I picked up the technique, well, I should say picked up, I stole. Let's be real. I stole the technique from, oh, my brain is failing me. Matteo Scalera. I saw him doing it at New York Comic Con one year, and I was like, well, that's mine now. Yeah, Matt, who would do that? What kind of monster would do that, Matt? Who would dress like Michael Myers? Not me. Sounds like something you would do. Matt, you'll be happy to know that Dean... So those of you on the stream, my youngest son is Dean. He's 9 years old. He'll be 10. But, you know, it's interesting that kids, you know, regardless of whether or not they've ever seen Nightmare on Elm Street, they know exactly who Freddy Krueger is just because he's, you know, in the sort of public I guess, like, conversation. And Dean really wants to be, told me that next year he really wants to be Michael Myers. So we gotta find a way to get him a good Michael Myers costume. When I say good, I mean I'll probably just buy him a cheap mask and then paint on it myself. I'm not gonna pony up a bunch of loot for a kid who's gonna wear something for 3 hours and then decide it's too hot. Alright, so, man, we're so close, y'all. I'm like ate up about how much gray wash to do in this Hulk face. I don't want to overdo it, but it feels a little underdone. Well, fingers crossed for me that I don't blow it. I think we're good. Alright. Alright, and if there's anything, anybody has any questions about any of this that I'm doing, like as far as process, don't hesitate to ask, of course. That's why we're live. I could just recorded this and not had the blunders or anything like that, and would have looked a lot cooler maybe, but I'm here for the chats. Matt, thank you for delivering. And Hassan. Alright, so alright, I think we're there on the Hulk here. So let's give it a second to breathe. I'm going to put a little bit more detail in this mouth with this pin. I think my head's in the way. And then we'll, in this hair actually. We're going to sign it. Crazy, we're coming up on 2023 being almost out the door, hey? Alright. Also, for the record, if anybody's looking to get a commission, I know this feels salesman-y. That's what these are. My art rep, Inky Knuckles, will be glad to set you up. That's INKY Knuckles, like that's on your hand. Inky Knuckles tends to they handle my representation, I guess. So if you want to buy original art, if you want to get yourself a commission like this here Hulk, that's where to get a hold of it. Let's get a little bit of white on here. I'm going to put a little bit of, so I've got this little jelly roll, number 08 sized pen. So I'm going to do like the classic comic book, like spit between the teeth. Because comic book fans really like it when there's drool. I got a critique one time on the Star Wars book that I did from I can't remember who the reviewer was, but someone, oh, I don't even think it was a reviewer, I think it was just someone on Twitter, commented about how I had some sort of weird fixation, like an oral fixation or something, because everybody was, lots of focuses on teeth and spit, and I'm like, well, hell yeah, dude. Like, it ain't comics if it ain't sweaty and spitty. So I set out, and I feel like succeeded at making maybe the sweatiest, wettest, unnaturally wet, I should say, Star Wars comic ever made. So it's made me happy. Love to make a real unnaturally wet Star Wars comic. Just sweaty and stressful and spitty and gross. So if you want to know if you're hiring me, that's what I'm bringing to the table, baby. Let's go. Alright, so let's blast those with a little bit of white. I tend to, when I do this part, I like to use a heavier pen if I have one, or like a wax crayon China marker sort of thing. I don't know if I've got one right now, so I'm just using a regular one. So I'm just going to beat the hell out of this thing, and you know, the more you plunge it, the bigger your globs are, which isn't always good, so you got to kind of be careful. But I think we're in business, dog. Check that out. Put a little bit on there, a little bit on there, a little bit coming out of his... Alright. And then, last little bit, we're going to get out the razor blade. For these last little things, you got to be careful with this, kids. I'm sorry about all the buzzing. That's like all my friends from Skype. So, oh my word, stop. I'm going to mute it. Yeah, I learned a lot of lessons about notifications today. Alright, so let's get some razor blade action here. So, it looks cool. So what you want from a razor blade is something that looks cool. If it looks bad, you did it wrong, or you made the wrong choice. You know what I mean? Kind of feel like it's impossible to emulate how cool a razor blade scrape on a piece of art is with any other tool. You know, you can get that like pop 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 from like a Presto whiteout pen, but it ain't anything like a razor blade. Like, that's just the coolest mark, you know. I'm just going to kind of cut some through my rocks here, give them a little bit of distance, and I'm very not pleased with all the notifications going on my phone right now. Thank you very much. Hey, I'm glad that I was a good soundtrack, Hassan. I'll be doing it more, so like I can like I said at the beginning of the stream, like I'm good at just running my mouth, so hopefully it's not terribly uninteresting, but I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, I'll try to get this a little bit up here so it can be seen. So here's our Mindless Hulk. I'm giving it like the like it's coming toward the camera here, like it's the damn Star Wars scroll or whatever. There we go. There he is. Man, that was a good one. Good request, whatever your name was. I have it, but I don't remember it. So, excellent. Thanks for jumping on, everybody. Obviously, like I have my Patreon listed down there, and my website, dreamcult.net. That's where I post a lot of my like weird horror comics and stuff. So if you don't mind subscribing and all that stuff. I hate to say like ringing the bell thing, but like actually because I'm going live a lot, like that might actually be a good thing to do. So yeah, just hit me up on the social medias at Brian Level. Like I'm easy to find. I'm Brian_Level on Twitter, and then Instagram. I'm Illuminat Tattoo. I have no cohesion between my social media accounts, so just look me up. It's either like a spooky dark version of my face, that's kind of blacked out, or it's me tattooing. So that's what you're going to get. So it's just BRIANLEVEL. And then hit me up on Patreon. I'll do some of these videos on free for Patreon. I also have, I kind of neglected to mention the Substack that I have, which is kind of for more like, it's way more serious. It's just kind of me working through feelings. It's not really necessarily like as emo as that sounds. It's not like a live journal or whatever, but it's definitely like a blog of like me working through like spiritual stuff and like just sort of like my relationship to my own religion, coupled with like horror and comic books and art making and all that stuff. So that's that Substack is called Thrones. Thrones.substack.com. So you can kind of find me all over the internet in various capacities. So the Thrones one, don't sign up for a monthly. Like, I'm not able to produce long, thoughtful, I guess, like monologues often enough. I'm not going to say no to your money, but you're better served just giving it to the Patreon, where I can give you art and stuff more quickly instead of long-winded pontifications on vibes or whatever. So thank you for popping in, and hopefully we'll see you guys around. Adios. Let's see if I can figure out how to end this like an actual pro.